And it's so nice to see Zuki shoot, right? Because he doesn't. And because he's got such a quick release like that. And, we see him score in practice like that. And he's such a, pass-first guy, obviously. He sees the ice very well. But when he does that, it'll open things up for not only him, but, obviously Kirill and Hartsey too. So, it was nice, really nice goal.
Welcome into Judd's Hockey Show, where honesty, Declan Goff, is at the forefront. And I love the fact that Dean Evison in that clip said, you like to see Zuki shoot because he doesn't, because never has a bigger truth been spoken by a coach. How long have we been saying, dude, you got to shoot the puck more? And he did last night, 7-3. The Wild beats the Anaheim Ducks at the X, an impressive performance against an undermanned Ducks team. Troy Terry, their leading goal scorer, was out. They lost Sonny Milano early in the game. He is, I believe, second on the team in scoring. John Gibson did not play, but nonetheless, let's get to the highlights, Declan Goff. Let's get to the highlights of this game, and I'm going to start with this one because I think we called this, and it didn't take a genius to see the potential here. So I'm not saying that, hey, Judd and Declan know a lot more,
but we do.
They just know a little more.
Yeah.
Matt Boldy and Kevin Fiala on the same line has the potential to be, and we saw it last night, fire. And I think it's exactly, and you've been begging for this for 22 for a while now. I think Kevin Fiala having Boldy, who is a wing but has the ability to make plays like a really good center, might be exactly what the Fiala doctor ordered. What do you think?
Yeah, he looked damn good yesterday. And for the fact that Fiala, who's been kind of in the doghouse for the better part of all season, whether it's just with his own game or with turnovers or situations, and for him to basically come out here and have the playmaker that we've been begging for him to have, and then both of them have phenomenal nights, that's exactly what we want. It's always nice to say, or it's always easy to say, I should say, that finding the number one center is the goal for this team. But as Bill Guerin, who even came on our podcast, told us, that just doesn't happen. And also, wings like Kevin Fiala, like Matthew Boldy, kind of have the ability to be a center, right? To make playmaking abilities. Just because they don't have a C or they don't play right down the middle of the ice, they still have abilities to create situations for their teammates. And Fiala and Boldy, this is exactly what you want. Analytically, they had a pretty solid day. They outpossessed the other team. They played a decent amount yesterday. And for both them to have big nights, I know Boldy with a 2-point night, right? And Fiala had a goal as well. So big time things happen with both those lines. That's exactly what the Wild needed.
And I also think that in the case of Fiala, I think he has the ability, Declan, to make plays. So I'm not saying he can, and we've certainly seen him do that in the past. But unlike Kaprizov, I don't think it's he can do both just fine. I would rather see Kevin with a guy who can create for him.
Sure.
Because his finishing skills can be elite. He also, I don't think, has the complete game. And by the way, this is not an indictment. Most guys don't. He doesn't have the game of Kaprizov. So if you can put Kevin with a guy like Boldy, who his vision of the ice is unbelievable. Like he made another behind the back pass last night, and he just anticipates things so well. But I think that this is the ideal way to get Kevin going goal scoring wise. And by going, I mean really. I don't mean, hey, a goal once a week or something. I mean going in a big way. This is going to be, and Gaudreau, you know what? He's fine there.
He's fine.
He's fine. He's got speed. He can keep up. My biggest problem last night, and this will be taken care of hopefully when Joel Eriksson Ek comes back, is the only guy that doesn't have the speed is Rask. Like he literally can't keep up with, and he can make some plays, but he can't keep up with the game. Gaudreau can. And to expand my point, I was watching that game last night, and yes, the Ducks were down some players, so it was not, I think the Abs on Monday afternoon will be a better test. But in watching that game last night and envisioning Eriksson Ek back, if you have health, big if, I understand that, so do you. If you have health, though, and Eriksson Ek is back, the four lines that they're going to roll I really like now. Now,
Right.
would I like a center who is like the clear number one eventually? Absolutely. But with the way that Hartman's playing, and
Yep.
then Goudreau centering a line with Fiala and Boldy, and then Eck being back between his guys, Foligno and Greenway, right? And then Sturm, and that fourth line is so damn fast.
Yeah.
They're rolling 12. They've got 12 players. I really like, including Duor, who has great speed.
It's we talked about this in the last episode, but obviously we'd like Marco Rossi to be that guy, but he clearly isn't there yet. And Guerin and the Brain Trust is not going to rush him and force him to be that guy yet. You know, Rossi was fine, but Rossi in his 2 games that he played was fine. He wasn't a detriment. He wasn't. I don't think I wouldn't classify it as overwhelmed. I don't know if you would say he was overwhelmed,
No,
but
that's too strong. I agree.
he was just a guy there. I think eventually, obviously, the hope is that he can be someone that is a legit top center. But for right now, you got to be pretty satisfied that that basically the Wild have found depth out of here. When Eriksson Ek comes back, it's going to make things a lot easier. And I guess my bigger question to you too is, we always talked about Hartman because he plays with Kaprizov and Zuccarello that he's kind of the benefit of that. He's a nice player, but I think we've kind of should change our tune a little bit, or not even change our tune, but just accept that Ryan Hartman is not just a nice, reliable defensive forward. Ryan Hartman looks like he's going to be a damn good hockey player on both sides of the ice.
I agree. Now, is he my first choice to be the top center on your top line with a superstar in Kaprizov for the duration, for the long term? I don't know about that. But you're right. He's been great. In fact, I tweeted this out last night, and I got one tweet back of dissension and about 4 or 5 saying that they liked the point. Back before Declan Goff, I think right before you were born, the North Stars picked up a guy from the Rangers who had been, like Hartman, a first-round draft pick, Dave Gagne, center.
Yeah.
And he had been a disappointment. Like, he hadn't thrived, and he came here, and they immediately, back then, as I recall, stuck him on what was the third or fourth line with Basil McRae and Stewie Gavin. And those guys worked their asses off. Like, that was a great, that was probably what the Eck line is back then. Like, they worked hard, didn't necessarily have a ton of talent on the wings, but those guys did their jobs.
Sure.
And I think were major pests for opponents. But Gagne, like what Hartman has done, I think got here with the expectation of, oh, if he's going to work hard, awesome. But this is him. And then he started to get points.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same sort of thing. And you're like, oh, this is why you were a first-round draft pick. Because I think we often default to guys because our patience is so low.
Mm-hmm.
If a guy doesn't thrive immediately, we're like, well, that's sort of a bust, right? And Gagne started to put up points and put up some goals and ascended up the line chart because it's like, no, this guy is really good. Hartman, to me, strikes me as the same way. And he was a first-round pick by the Blackhawks, went to the Flyers for a cup of coffee, and now here has been unleashed. And yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you for 1 second as far as he is a legitimate top 6 talented player who, yes, will grind and will work his butt off, but he also flat out can play and has skills. You're right.
And look, there is still obviously some benefactor of him playing with Kirill and Zuccarello too. I mean, that is obviously still helping his game. But Judd, he's projected to finish the season with 39 goals.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like I would bet. I don't know if he gets to 30. I really don't, just because that's a crap ton of goals. But he's literally projected to be a damn near 40 goal scorer. Think about that, and he might be the biggest bargain in the NHL right now, making chump change. I mean, he signed a team friend. He could have just said, you know what? Let me wait. I had a good year last year, my best year of my career. I'll wait. And he said, no, I'll sign the contract. I don't know if he's kicking himself for doing that, but he might be the best absolute bargain in the NHL, making less than $2 million basically, and is on pace to be a 40 goal scorer.
He's been fantastic. And in fact, to segue to that entire line last night, Zuccarello, 2 goals and 1 assist, Declan. Kaprizov, 2 assists, and let's see here. Yep, 2 assists and a +3. And then Hartman, a goal, an assist, 2 points, +3. That line was fantastic. And I'm going to say this, and we gush about this guy continually, but I feel like it's unfair not to. Kirill Kaprizov gets hurt a week ago Thursday in Boston, and it looks bad. Like, it looks like, okay, that's a shoulder or something. Because the 2 games in Canada got canceled, he doesn't miss, or I think he missed 1 game against the Capitals last Saturday, but he doesn't miss those 2 games that were scheduled originally against the Jets and Oilers. He comes back last night, and he doesn't just play. He looks like a man possessed. And here's what impressed me the most last night. The passes, again, were great. But here's what just floored me. For a guy who just got hurt, the way that he, and I don't know if he was purposely more acutely aware of people approaching him from his blind side because of how the hit in Boston, which was basically that from Trent Frederick, happened. But he had a couple of plays last night, including one that resulted in a goal, that literally he had Ducks players coming up from behind him. He was aware, but he couldn't see them. Mm-hmm. There was one behind the net where he threw a reverse check that was stronger than some guys can throw a front forward check.
Right. Yeah.
That kid's backside is phenomenally strong. He like destroys guys.
He's built like an ox. I mean, he really is. Yeah. He's literally built like a rock, like an ox. And, you know, I think, and Dean said it off the top there, you know, he was maybe a little timid. Yesterday he was maybe a little timid coming back from injury.
I didn't see that.
But then there's moments where, like you said, where he back checks into someone, and he's such a strong guy that he doesn't strike me as the dude that wouldn't, not to say like he doesn't play hurt, because I'm sure hockey players, and especially by the end of the season, everyone's banged up, no one's healthy. But he doesn't seem like his motor turns off from 0 to 100. It stays consistent the entire time. And that top line, I mean, Joe, what do you think? Do you think that top line of Hartman, Kaprizov, Zuccarello can legitimately hang with the majority of top lines in the NHL right now?
I think the Wings can. Hartman, I'd be curious to see against, like, McKinnon. But sure, for right now, I do, because Hartman does have the work ethic to do it, mm-hmm, and he does have skill. Mm-hmm. So like, I hesitate to get too far over my skis and be like, yeah, bring on McKinnon, right, bring on McDavid. He'll take those guys, because, I mean, that's really pushing it. But do I think that this top line is gelled really well? And do I think that they can make you consistently competitive against good, bad, and mediocre teams? Yes, I do. The top guys, I'd be curious to see them. I think Monday's game against the Avs will be interesting.
Yeah, and, you know, I would say it's probably, top 75%, right? Like, is it in the 90% elite threshold of other lines? Maybe not, but it's clearly an above average line, right? Like, it's an above average line.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just average. It's an above average line. It probably hangs with the majority of 3/4 of the NHL's top lines. Mm-hmm. And for them to, for them to get I think a big win, and look, they haven't played a lot of games. They got some games in hand here in the division. You know, I think some fans, oh my God, they're 4th. You know, they've fallen off a little bit. Well, hold on. You know, Nashville, for whatever reason, hasn't had like any games canceled. I don't know how that's happened to them. But there's some games in hands here. Yes, Monday's game, the matinee hockey day, is going to be a fun one against Colorado. I'm excited to watch that. That's going to be a legitimate true test. But for the Wild they just continue to win, man. I mean, and right, again, they had to play Kalen Addison, who didn't play a lot last night. They're without Joel Eriksson X still, and this team is continuing to find ways to win. I think that's what's just so impressive.
Well, hell, what? Still no Spurgeon? I think he started to skate again in practice, but he's not set. Mm-hmm. Brodin, I don't think, is skating yet. And so, yeah, your bottom 2 defensemen are bottom 2 guys. So, right. I would say the best way to get a read, because the schedule is so goofed up now, and because, to your point, Dex, teams have not played the same amount of games or even close. I'd say the best way to get a read is go to the NHL.com site, look at the standings. They have points percentage. That's the best way to read these right now.
Sure.
But to go back to what we talked about on the last edition of JHS, is the important thing is, when are we going to see the schedule? Because depending on how compacted this schedule is, the games that you're going to make up could put you in a very tough predicament. And that's my question. Because I don't think the Olympic break now covers the amount of games lost. So despite the fact that break is gone, I don't think that you can just easily space games out. And so what I am very curious to see, especially for road games, is when do they play these games, and do you have a ton of like back-to-backs? In some cases, does it get more ridiculous than that? I don't know what the league and its union have as far as agreements there. I want to talk to you about, and I don't know if you saw this fight last night though, but Brandon Duhaime delivered a quality check through Josh Manson, who is a big, rugged, solid Ducks defenseman. And Manson had just gotten rid of the puck, and Duhaime kept coming, but it was from the front side. And I thought it was a fine hit. So Manson leaves the ice, and a guy by the name of Sam Carrick challenges Duhaime. He takes the challenge, and they fight. And I think it was Ryan Carter and LaPanta on the game last night were talking about, well, why do you have to be challenged to a fight, and why do you feel the need to fight if you're Duhaime if you threw a clean check? I've got a bigger question. Josh Manson, who's a big guy.
He's a big guy. I know
his dad played for the Blackhawks. Dave Manson could fight. He could kick your ass. Here's my question. Since when did guys like Josh Manson allow teammates to pick their fights?
Yeah, that's weird.
That's what's weirder to me. Yeah. Like, if you didn't like the hit and you're Josh, okay, that's cool. I mean, do I agree that you should challenge the guy for sure? No, but you know what? We can debate that. But since when did a big, rugged, sturdy guy it's just like when Greenway gets into scuffles and Marcus Foligno flies in. I'm always like, if I'm Jordan, I'm like, Marcus, I got this. Protect Sturm, protect the little guys. I don't like this whole thing of fights being orchestrated by guys defending teammates when those teammates are large people who can fight their own fights if they so choose.
You know, the opinion and perception of fighting in the NHL has certainly changed in the last 10, 15 years from what it was. So it's definitely a lot different. But, you know, Marcus Foligno, for your point of sticking up, I mean, that's just who he's going to be. He is a no BS, don't mess with me and my Cubs kind of guy. Like, he is a kind of a lioness in that matter.
Right.
And I yeah, you know, Duhaime's a nice, tough SOB too. You know, I think the majority of these players are.
And he can fight his fights, but
yes.
But I'm saying I don't like this trend of my big teammate got hit, so you don't need to defend them. Jordan Greenway never needs to be defended unless he's cheap shotted and down out cold. Josh Manson does not need to be defended.
Right.
My point is, if you are a big guy and you want to fight, the whole anti-fighting community is free to step in and say that's stupid.
Right.
But to me, it's your choice.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're a big guy, but if I'm out there and I get in a dust up, I don't want Marcus Foligno or this character from the Ducks, Sam Carrick, saying, I'll take care of this. No, dude, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. You know, go fight. If Jared Spurgeon gets hit, that's fine. You go fight him, Marcus.
Sure.
I got this.
No, it is. I think just the perception of everything is just always different. So it's
like,
very
I
strange.
defend you.
Yeah.
Mackie, not so much. He can.
No, not Mackie. Mackie can fight his own battles.
He can fight his own fights.
No,
I'm not going to fight for Mackie. You're
sports
younger,
son,
and you're a sport, and you're a little guy. I got your back.
And I always look. As that person in general, I always looked at the bigger guys to help me out.
Yes,
okay,
and you should.
Perception, self-awareness.
My best friend in grade school looked for me to defend him. I was the bigger kid. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't pick fights with guys to defend my classmates that were my size. That's what I'm saying.
I got you.
Last thing before we go. All-Star game. Kaprizov's going. Talbot's going. I'd like to hear your statistical Talbot. And look, Talbot at times, who's hurt right now, has been really good.
Yep.
But I feel like you have a better finger on the pulse of selections based on the deeper dive. I'd like to hear your thoughts from the division. Keep in mind it's from the division of Cam Talbot going to the All-Star game along with the goaltender from Nashville, Saros.
Yeah, I don't get this. I think maybe some teams just saw, hey, he's got 15 wins. It's kind of like a starting pitcher. Like Cam Talbot is one of those starting pitchers from 10 years ago, like Ubaldo Jimenez, had won 20 games in 2010 and had like an ERA of 4.5, but he won games. And wins for a starting pitcher are obviously very overrated and miscued sometimes. But Talbot just statistically has been literally an average goalie at best this season.
And that's still true.
Average. Okay. He's been an average goalie at best. Nowhere near an all-star game. Jordan Binnington, I think is an absolute loose cannon nut job. But Jordan Binnington, I think, deserves to go more than Cam Talbot.
That's what I was going to ask. Who else from the Central deserves to go?
Talbot deserves to go. Didn't Hellebuck didn't make it? Even if
Crosby didn't make this game, so it's a real
even if with not looking, I don't have Hellebuck's numbers up right now. Connor Hellebuck is on a different level than Cam Talbot.
But I don't know what his stats are. So, in fairness,
it's a weird process. The All-Star game in general, as most of them have lost luster across all major sports. Baseball still is probably the best, but it's by default. It's not because it's still a good game. I was pretty surprised to see Talbot get named, but I will say, not to transition it out, but I mean and the Ducks are banged up. Ducks aren't that great. I think their future is very bright. I think actually the Ducks in maybe a year or two could pop back up and be the team that they were 10 years ago when they were competing for Stanley Cups. But Kaapo had another big performance yesterday. 39 saves. He still saw a lot of shots. He played pretty well. I think Monday's test against Colorado, is going to be a huge, huge moment for him. Can he hang with Colorado?
This is a huge confidence builder, not only for Kaapo, but for the team and coaching staff, too. Because this, to me, definitively says Kaapo Kahkonen can play more.
Yep.
And I'm not saying get crazy. I'm not saying Talbot is out of a job. He's not. But when we see that new schedule come out, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be absolutely nuts. Nothing but hockey, which will be fun for us. But that being said, Kaapo playing is a must. It's imperative.
Yep.
And he has done nothing since Cam got hurt to make you say, boy, you better get help.
Right.
You better get help. So, I'm with you. It's a huge positive.
This has been a good thing for the Wild. Kaapo's emergence is a good problem to have. So, when Talbot comes back, I'm sure there's going to be a moment where Talbot, all right, Cam's back. He's our guy, right? I think that perception might be the case. But there's a guy now behind him that's ready to play. And I think Monday's game against Colorado is going to be a big. He played well against Boston. He played well against Washington. He's also got that cocky goalie demeanor to him that he likes playing the best teams and wants to show up. I want to see what he does against Colorado. I'm excited.
Who starts in goal for the Avs? I want to see good old Darce.
Yeah, see Darcy.
I told you that move wouldn't work. I told you when they made the move it wouldn't work. Look,
bow down to you.
The Arizona Coyotes have no pressure on them. They're in Arizona. It's a great place to play a pressure spot. Darcy Kemper has never, go back to his time here. Did he ever handle extended periods of pressure well here?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I told you it wouldn't work, and they're going to have to go get a goalie. But if they don't, it's going to cost them. So anyway, all right, tell people where they can find more of this great Score North content, and then do your thing. Oh, and play Billy. Play us off with Billy.
I'll play us off with Billy. I'll wrap things up with our friend of the show. Maybe the best friend of the show of Judd's Hockey Show.
Get him on again soon.
We do. He's overdue. I saw he was on some other podcasts. So
he's on a ton of them. He's a great. Yeah. He's a great.
Did you see the spit and chicklets?
Yes, he's great.
I think they came to his house.
They did.
They went to his home.
They did a whole. In fact, I think it's a half-hour their time at the Winter Classic, and they're leaving the Westin to go to Garen's. And I will say this: the more Biz Nasty in my life, the better.
Him grilling Biz. Oh, you had a lot of jerseys for the AHL.
I know he's not. I know Biz was not a big name,
right?
But my God, I think he's as close to Barkley as we've found for our sport.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good.
He is hilarious. He doesn't care. He rips himself.
Yeah, no, he's an awesome guy. If you want more Minnesota Wild content, hit the subscribe button on this YouTube channel. This is Judd Zulgad. I'm Declan Goff. We are the two members of Judd's Hockey Show. If you like Minnesota sports entertainment, on the Vikings, on the Wolves, on the Twins, if baseball ever comes back again, hit that subscribe button. We're also on Apple, Spotify, ScoreNorth.com, the Score North app, where Judd Zulgad's roundup on all these Vikings interviews is there too. So if you want some football feast, we got NFL Super Wild Card Weekend this weekend.
Wild Card Weekend.
Score North does not sleep. Score North does not stop. we are pumping out content for you 7 days a week on 2 different YouTube channels, Score North MN and also the Purple Daily Podcast. So we'll be back to break down that wild game against Colorado on Monday, I'm sure. Judd and myself will be doing that. As I like to say, pass, shoot, score. And to our friend of the show, Billy Guerin, here he is.
Listen, you guys know what this is all about, right? Right? What's it all about? Spurgey?
Hard work and having fun.
That. This is about winning.